What's up, all you mentees? This is the Uncanny Omar, and today I am being joined by one of my oldest friends and my co-host on the channel, Near Mint Condition. You've seen him do a couple of comic book videos with me. He does the Transformer videos on the channel. That's my boy right here. Now you can talk.
You're presuming that we're laid out that same way on the oh, hey, look, we are. Okay,
We
awesome.
we are, we are. I got this, man.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
This is Dan. He's one of my co-hosts on the channel. He actually, yeah, his background comes from comic books and Transformers. So he's a big Transformers fan and also a comic books fan. So I'll let people come into this so we have enough before I make some announcements and things like that. But before we get started, where's everybody from? Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Yeah, I'd love to know where everybody's from before we start talking about comic books and things like that. I know we've got some European, Australian, and South American folks. ¿Hay algunos peruanos ahí ya? ¿Todavía? No? Maybe not. Not yet. I've been reading comics all day. How have you been keeping busy, Dan, when you're not lawyering at home?
I was gonna say, I'm very lucky in that my job is more or less the same. Uh,
La potra.
because I'm able to do most of it just from a computer. Every in-court appearance has been canceled
Right.
indefinitely, and a
I
lot
bet
of
a lot of
states are
people,
actually like
but a lot of
suspending.
people are like, woo.
Yeah,
I
well,
guess
I
not
mean,
that, well, depending on what you're going to court for, right?
yeah, exactly. But a lot of just deadlines have been unilaterally suspended. So like stuff we were doing behind the scenes, like discovery and stuff, is all like, oh, now the deadline's 3 months from now instead of in a week. So we're trying to keep up. The work keeps coming in, so that's good. Um,
That is good.
we've got a lot of healthcare clients that are doing a lot and staying very busy, obviously, and with as much kind of just the flurry of new law and relaxation of regulation that's come out in the last couple of days. Everyone's asleep now. Um,
No,
but
man, it's just me
but
catching up with you because we don't get to talk as
yeah,
often. Because
yeah, it's
even though we
we've
live
been
like
we've been
20 minutes
busy.
away, we don't, other than, hey, Omar, did you see that they're releasing a Super Megatron? And I'm like,
I
no,
know.
I didn't need to know that, but now I guess I need to pre-order it. 28th day of lockdown from the Philippines. Man, much love to you, dude. I am so sorry. Like this is I mean, it's affecting everybody, right? Like, and I know we're gonna talk about comics, but it's affecting everybody,
Oh
people's
yeah, absolutely.
jobs. Like it's crazy. So I'm just highlighting some of these. Hi from Connecticut, Austin, Texas, Finland, Slovakia, Nashville. Oh, there's a couple of people. Somebody was here from Bowling Green. I was trying to scroll up. Uncanny Durley, my uncanny brother from Texas. Jesse's also from Texas. Western Australia. Much love to y'all. Belgium, Russia, France. I love seeing all these different places.
Wow.
All of us, and which is the reason why I decided to do it during this time because I think this is a good time for everybody around the globe to kind of get together. Because usually I used to do these like on Friday nights, which is a lot of fun because I can drink. Well, maybe it's more fun for me because I can drink.
Omar, I don't understand. Why can't you drink at 11 o'clock on a Saturday?
Because I'm not that stir crazy yet.
Yeah,
Yet.
you know,
No, there are times that I'm like, what day is it? What the hell am I supposed to be doing?
the only reason I'm not drinking a beer right now is because I've only got one left.
Right?
And I have to make arrangements to go get some more.
That's also a problem. Texas, all kind. Is the background too busy, guys? That is just one of my favorite panels. I can take it off though, and we can make it plain. Y'all, let me know. Um, we can make the background. There we go. Is that better? If it's too busy.
Black wicker.
See, I
Dun,
wanted to
dun,
be
dun,
a little
dun,
more
dun, dun,
cheery
dun,
than something
dun.
like black, because black is not the greatest color. Even though I'm wearing black, not the greatest color when you're talking about, trying to be optimistic. So
Ooh, I like the Danvastator. It doesn't roll off the tongue, but
this is a good question for both of us. Is the main shooting location at Omar's house?
yes, for the panel episodes, because believe it or not, Omar doesn't actually own any of that stuff, but he's just painted all his walls green. And
Yep.
so we
It's
just
all
drop
green
that
screen.
stuff in behind, and it's been a very elaborate uh, thing over the last few years to slowly update what's on those shelves so it seems fresh all the time. It's great. But yeah, he's got the green basement. It's awesome.
That'd be so much cheaper than spending it on books. There's a liquor ban. Oh man, dude, can you imagine a liquor ban? Oh, that would be insane. How do people? Ooh.
We've got liquor deliveries.
Hello, this is my first live video in human condition. Thank you, and welcome. It's a stupid idea for DC to close this animation department. It's there's a lot of decisions, and honestly, decisions are being made every hour. So you'll hear something, and then another hour you'll hear like the exact opposite. No, we're gonna do this. So
Yeah,
just
and
because
that's
somebody's
everywhere.
yeah, it's not just comics, it's everybody. Black is my favorite color. That's right, Guts. Of course it is. We're still mourning the loss. I'm going to get Rob to join me for one of these. So this is let's get started with this, and then we'll talk about some of the things that I've been wanting to talk about on the show that David has given me permission to talk about from Marvel's perspective. I still, and then we'll talk about what's happening with some online stores and retailers. So did you guys hear Tom McFarlane's plan for the comic industry going forward? He made some really good points. Even said he'd be up for a Spawn Spider-Man crossover. I think when things like this happen, most of the time the best of humanity comes together, and I think during our first live episode, I mentioned it'd be really cool to see what Gail Simone wants to see, like a DC versus Marvel event, kind of bring everybody together, right?
Well, it's been 20 years easy since the last one, right?
hmm We were in high school when that event came out.
Yeah, it's been
That's
longer
how
than that
long
then.
ago. um, what's the best outlet to sell trades omnis? I'm part of an omnibus collectors group, and that's actually what it's called on Facebook. And honestly, I don't Facebook much. I don't think Dan even has a Facebook anymore.
Not
But
anymore.
it's where my app directs me to. So I directly go in there. Great, met a lot of people, a lot of kind people, and I'm part of the Omnibus Collectors Group YouTube channel. So Omni Bros Live, if you haven't checked it out.
Now,
Our
is
liquor
that
store.
just?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Is that like marketplace just people making deals and stuff, or is it any like kind of formal like
It's a
does it have a
community.
formal marketplace thing? But
Well,
so
yes,
it's just like chat and like a forum, and people are making actual deals, right?
yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Like I've bought several things there. I sold a lot of things there. So it's a wonderful place if you want to bypass eBay, you want to bypass the PayPal fees sometimes because they get ridiculous, or eBay fees rather.
Mm.
Reddit was another good place. There's a swap Reddit group. So if you haven't joined both of those, I strongly suggest, especially if you don't have social media, go with Reddit. Are you
Yeah.
going to pick up the JLA by Grant Morrison omnibus? You damn Skippy, I am. Unless it gets canceled, and knock on wood, I don't think it's going to. It might be pushed back.
Is that the early aughts JLA? If
That
I'm
is the
remembering
that
right.
is yep, the Blue Superman, Lightning Superman, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's some good
Yeah, I
stuff, man.
love that stuff.
Dan, how often have you shouted "I am the law" at your
You know,
kids?
it it comes up more than you think, though. Uh, More often is I just reference bringing law to the frontier, and nobody gets what I'm talking about. That's okay.
That's exactly what I was saying, Green Lantern. Calling Todd McFarlane the best of humanity, it is desperate times. When Todd McFarlane is willing to draw Spider-Man again, that's how bad times have gotten. I'm just saying. You all have heard him for decades go on that I am never. He wouldn't even let Marvel reprint his sketch that he did for that Wizard. Like all the people donated like to the Wizard thing. Like they did a sketch of Spider-Man, and he wouldn't let them reprint it. That's how much he hates the idea of streamlined superheroes, right?
Yeah.
But for him to make a statement like that, it's a big deal. course, man, the Omni Group, they need it. We all in this together. How long does it take for an omnibus to go out of print? For example, Uncanny X-Men, X-Force, Incredible Hulk, Sensational She-Hulk. I'd like to hear your opinions. It varies really on popularity or how much print there is. One of the biggest things that happens, and is that both publishers, DC and Marvel, really have no idea how many to print sometimes. Right? They can go on some madman, like base it on some madman that has a YouTube channel and everybody's excited for Sensational She-Hulk. But is that really a sell, right? So the best thing that people could possibly do is pre-order. But then there's that double-edged sword that there are not a lot of places offer pre-order services. So how many do you print of something like She-Hulk, right? On X-Men, it's a sure bet that X-Men's going to be printed pretty heavily. Unless something like this happens where the printer factories are forced to shut down, so they only got a few batches out of Uncanny X-Force. But that was going to be a big book to begin with. So most of the time, if it's X-Men or something big like Spider-Man, they stay in print for a while, with the exception of the direct market cover. And direct market, if you're new to that term, it just means that these are covers that are only available for comic book stores or places online like our sponsor, Cheap Graphic Novels, in-stock trades, Tales of Wonder. Those are the only places you can get the direct market cover. And those usually go out of print sometimes in less than 3 hours, just because there's a smaller print run of those. And both companies know that there's a big demand for those.
I've got a follow-up to that, Omar.
Yeah, what's up?
Do you think there's any chance, and obviously everything seems to be up in the air right now. Do you think there's any chance that Marvel or DC would embrace a kind of Kickstarter-ish model for that, of like, we're thinking of doing Sensational She-Hulk, and if so many people agree to order it, we'll do it, and then they do an extra print run above that?
If they did that, then see, I've seen companies do that before, right? Like I've seen DMP, the Digital Manga Press, do that. They've done that with, but they're small. I think the big two just know that. I don't think they. How do I put it? I don't think they would. They would take the man hours to figure something out like that when they can just print it, knowing people will buy it. It's just a matter of like, yeah, you're right. Like, and then people also. It's a domino effect, right? They print something, the distribution centers get it after the it goes to Hachette and Penguin Random House, and then after that, they go to online retailers and comic book stores, and then that's where you get your biggest deal because everybody knows that first week is usually the best time to get one of these big books for $100 retail price. I want Dan to say you can't hit. He did. He says that a lot.
Son, we live in a world that has walls. Those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Who's going to do it? You, Lieutenant Weinberg?
See, look, y'all got him.
Responsibility than you can possibly fathom.
Y'all got him started.
I can go on.
He can. So let me pull up some things here before we get started. So the question from Bruce, and now that we've got a lot of people here watching, so again, if you're now joining, thank you. I haven't really said anything yet. This is newsworthy, but thank you so much for joining us. So the biggest thing right now is Omar, Cheap Graphic Novels starting back with new books coming Tuesday. Will they have JMS number 2? Okay. What I know so far, and I know they're my sponsor, but I don't really speak for them. I know that they have been working their ass off, trying to find other distribution centers to get books in, right? So instead of going through Diamond, they're going through actual Penguin Random House, Hachette to get books. Now, I made this pretty clear before, or I was making assumptions, but I mean, obviously it's true. When you do that, you're not going to get the biggest discounts, right? And if they don't get big discounts, we don't get big discounts. That's usually what it means. So it's a matter of going through, and not just them, but several distribution centers. But nobody offers the discount that Diamond did, because Diamond, the way that Diamond works, it was like the more you order, the bigger the discount, right? So if you order a crate full of whatever, you're going to get the biggest discount no matter what across the board. Like it's different based on companies, right? Like Marvel's discount is a lot better than like a smaller company, right? Like something like say Boom Studios. But the more you order, you maximize those discounts, and that's the problem when it comes to like I hate to call it a monopoly, but that's really what Diamond had. Um, but that's the problem when you're ordering from different places, different distribution centers. You're not gonna get the discounts that you used to. So they had an option, and I don't think they're the only online retailer that's doing this. I know that they for sure are, but it's like, what do you do? Do you wait for Diamond to fix this mess in the hopes that they will send you your books, or do you try to find other outlets to get people their books, not at a bigger discount, but at least people will have these books? Because the other option is also going through Amazon and Barnes and Noble, right? Because they don't get their books directly from Diamond. They get them directly from Hachette and Penguin Random House. But I don't know how long that's going to be until Hachette and Penguin Random House says, okay, Marvel and DC set the cutoff. Because right now, I mean, there's no digital, there's nothing as far as this week is concerned. There's nothing like that going on. So that's a long answer to your question. So they are going to get. I know they have a case of Wolverine Omnibus coming, and they have a case of JMS Volume 2 coming. They're on their way soon. I don't know if they'll get it this week. And they've also pre-ordered a case of like Silver Surfer, Astonishing X-Men, and the Black Widow Omnibus. And those should be there by the time that the book market date was supposed to be there. So, but that's, I guess, my question to most people is, are you all willing to wait? Right? Because I don't know. Like, everybody says I'm willing to wait, but I'm a collector, and I know the collector mentality, right? Dan, I mean, it's the same. I mean, let's be real for a second. I'm a
Well,
collector,
it's
and
it's
I can say I'm willing to wait. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's I'm willing to wait if I am assured that my patience will result in me actually getting this book, as opposed to 6 months from now when I've been patient with my original order, them saying, "Oh, we just canceled that," because that's happened. I mean, again, I don't order the omnibuses and stuff, but that's happened with other things, fairly often. It's like, oh, delay, delay, delay. Okay, well, I see other people are getting it from other places, but oh, okay, now you're telling me you just don't have it, and I just get a refund, and now I can't have it at all because I didn't order it from somewhere else.
Like,
That's
it,
that's tough.
it's something we've talked about on the channel, and it's a real thing. It's FOMO. It's the fear of missing out. How long are you willing to wait when you see
Yeah,
everybody else has these? But it
it's not.
but it
I
comes
think it's
down to that
different from
though.
fear of missing out, though.
Oh,
I
I
don't
think it
know.
has a little bit to do with that too. Like, if you see everyone else throwing pictures
Oh
out
yeah,
there of, I don't know, I'll just use JL, the Justice League International Volume 2. I know how I would be. I was like, damn, I think I'm willing to pay a little more to get it now, just in case.
yeah,
Because there's always this crap of like, just in case. Because you're right. We absolutely have no idea what's going to happen. We don't know how long it's going to be. I mean, we all want to hope for the best, but like, realistically, I don't know how long before
yeah,
Diamond fixes
exactly.
its issues, and how long Diamond says, okay, let's let these books out. Let's get these people these books. Man, it's crazy. And I'm glad like a lot of people are willing to wait, but then like there's people that don't have a choice but to wait. I know my European watchers, my Canadian subscribers, you all wait longer than anybody. And by the time you all get books, the direct market version is gone. Right? And that sucks. Like, so I think what will come out of this though is things are going to be different for Diamond, for Marvel and DC. I think now there's going to definitely be a plan B and a plan C in case things fall apart again. But yeah, just that's one of the biggest things. Like, one of the biggest questions is, how long are you willing to wait before things? Thank you so much for the super chat. So Amazon will have JMS Volume 2 and Silver Surfer, etc. Keenan, thank you for the super chat. And yes, to answer your question, they will, but it won't be like the direct market version, right? They'll have the standard edition. So if you don't care about covers, that you're fine. Yeah, so most of the stuff we get in the Netherlands is through Diamond. Yeah. The thing to consider is the scenario is that Diamond has JMS Spider-Man 2 and the early April release in their warehouse, and they just haven't shipped them yet. Right. So I know for a fact they have JMS 2. I know for a fact they have Astonishing X-Men, and they have Wolverine. I'm thinking they have Black Widow. I'm not 100% sure. But they have to fix their own problems too. Like there's money issues, right? Like we can't overlook that too. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I do know that um and the other big, I mean, the other big online store has stated, I listened to an interview with Cameron's wife from DCBS, right? So we have in stock trades. Now, DCBS is going to see what Diamond's going to do. Now, they haven't made any kind of formal like statement saying what they're going to do with books too. So I don't know if they're going to sort out other distributors or what they're going to do. But I think the last thing I heard was they were going to wait on Diamond. So that's the big question right now. It's how that's going to be handled. So I have and Dan's going to help me with this. We have some questions from for you all to kind of get a better gauge as to what's important and what's needed. Like one of the biggest things, and I think it's Marvel has come out and asked me to do, and I think this is important. So please feel free to share this information wherever. Is that if there's any retailers watching and you're planning to sign up for the federal assistance, please let me know. I just go ahead, Dan.
And I'll say from my side, don't sit on that. If you haven't already submitted that, you got to get it in. There's only so much money, and while it's not strictly a first come first serve system, that's kind of how it's shaking out. So
if there's
you got to get that application in as soon as possible.
So if there's one thing to get out of this episode to share with everybody, please, if you know a retailer, or if a retailer is watching this and you're planning to sign up for that federal assistance, email us. I'm going to actually put that down. Email us at nearmintcon@gmail.com, and I will share your information with David because he wants to know. Because Marvel is offering to help you out. So remember that, please. Actually, let me go ahead and do that. Yeah, the federal assistance thing is that's a big waiting line.
I think, yeah, it would not surprise me if that gets additional bumps along the way. I know they're trying to work on that in Congress right now, but that's going to be what keeps everything able to bounce back as much as possible. So, and it's one of those things where you might think, and obviously I'm not telling anybody how to run their business, but you might think, oh, we're doing okay, or we've worked something out or whatnot, but you got to plan for what happens if we're still in this 3 months from now, and sources dry up and suppliers dry up and things like that. Even if you've got a plan for you, the people in the businesses you rely on might not have such good plans.
So if you get anything from this episode, if you know any of your local comic book stores that are planning to sign up for that federal assistance, or if you yourself have an online retail store, or if you have a comic book store and you're planning to sign up, please email us, and I'll make sure that David gets your information. Okay, so please make sure to share that for anybody. Make sure Facebook, whatever.
I have a question that goes back to something that you said earlier.
Sure.
And with everything that's been going on, I hadn't been paying a huge amount of attention to like just comics in general, kind of figuring out I would catch up. But I was surprised when I went back and looked this week to see that the big companies aren't publishing anything even digitally. I mean,
I
That surprises me, and I'd be curious to know whether our folks who, because I suspect that the group that's watching this is more inclined for physical objects. Uh, but would people be more inclined to buy digital content during this whole shutdown period than they otherwise would, and kind of what kind of stuff would people be interested in?
um that is a good question because I've heard so many things like, "Oh, let's just get rid of the single issues, right? Let's get rid of floppies and just let's just do trades or release single issues digitally and then do a collection for a physical collection later." But I've said it before, and that you do that, and that's going to destroy comic book stores.
Oh yeah, but
Main
I wonder if there's something in between. I don't know.
like a middle ground, of course, and that's the
Yeah,
key.
like a middle
That's the
ground, or like some sort of serialized content that isn't the same as the floppies, or something. I don't know. But like, I mean, until I realized that they weren't doing digital distribution, I was just like, okay, well, I mean, there was a period where I was buying things twice digitally because I had no patience, and physically because I wanted to support my local comic shop. Uh, I don't mind to do that again for a little bit. Um,
this is a
you know,
this is a really good question. It goes back to the discounts. Can you define no big discounts? Are we talking 10% off or just no 50% off? I'm not sure. I don't care if I get books for like 40% off. I'm thinking no. I don't think it's going to be like 10% off. I think it's going to be maybe somewhere in the middle, 25, 30% off, if that. I don't know since I don't order books, but I'm just taking a guess just based on how much of a discount that Diamond used to offer compared to other places now. I'm thinking probably your discount as a consumer might be 25 to 30% off on the big two at least. I'm not sure
yeah.
about the smaller companies, like I said, Boom or IDW. I don't know, since usually IDW, the discounts we used to get were like 30% off at most. But the more I hear, the more I find out, I will let you all know. Um, so let me stroll straight, and you can too. Let's see. Omar asked cheap graphic novels on Twitter, and they told me the Wolverine JMS omnibus are coming out in 2 weeks, but not the DM variants. They were all out of print. I think what happened with those DM variants is they got caught up during the printer thing from China. So there weren't a lot of those to begin with. And whatever little there is, I'm pretty sure that Diamond has those. So that's probably what that's about. Good thing that local comic book stores are doing is that you can buy some books from them for cheap. CGN and IST should take some books really cheap to get a lot more books out. I just got Batman Cataclysm for 21. I've seen a lot of comic book stores. I know our local comic book stores have done like Instagram sales and curbside stuff. Like every day they put big books out, like the Omnis that we collect. They up to 50% off sometimes.
But all of that too is dependent on like local orders of whether they're even permitted to do business in that way. It's so hard.
It is. It is. I can't imagine the stress these people are dealing with. Like,
No, me neither.
because
Me neither.
if your dream, and I know, like, I've always wanted to open up a comic book store slash bar, but that's another story. But if
Don't
that,
take the beer into the comic part.
all right, it's like one of those. Nah, never mind. I'm not gonna go that route. Anyway, uh, Taylor, I'll get to your question, but I can't imagine the amount of stress. Like, if this was your dream to open up a comic book store, right? I guess somebody really gets rich on comic book stores. Like, that's just the way it is. Maybe some people do, but man, you rely on new comics to pay to keep the lights on. That's what new comics are. Everything else is great, but the new comics that come out that keeps the lights on, that pays for rent, and you're going 2 weeks without it, dude. You are already hurting, right? And that's the big problem. And I'll go back on that subject here in a little bit because I do have to talk about another announcement that Marvel or David told me. Omar, I have a damaged copy of the Mutant Massacre Omnibus coming today. Should I go ahead and read it or be patient? Be patient. The payoff would be better if you're patient, man. Get those uncannies first. Um, Why has Marvel reduced the circulation of Omnis? It's not that they have. This is a really good question. It's not that they have. It's just that there's more demand. And like I said, because they can't gauge exactly how many they need to print, some of these things go out of print quick. Now, the situation with the Uncanny X-Force and Daredevil by Bendis Omnis, that's a different thing. That was because the printers that were shut down in China only let out a few batches. So they weren't finished sending out the rest of the stuff to Diamond, or I'm sorry, to the Hachette. So that's one thing to keep in mind. They are getting more, and Diamond probably has them. I think. Don't quote me on that. But it was just that they
But
didn't.
Omar said,
Don't quote me on that. Damn it! This is why I have you on the show, Dan, because you're the lawyer.
but a guy who's completely outside of the supply chain said,
but he has a YouTube channel. Comic shop and bar, baby. Omar 2020. Yeah, man, we'll make that happen. We may need it after all this.
That's right.
So one of the big questions I've been getting is, Omar, when are we going to get the July solicitations from Marvel? I love watching your videos on that because I get excited. I get excited too, as much as you all, because I love going through those with you all. And right now would have been the time to get it. I would have done an episode sometime this week. However, there is no solicitations coming out for July for Marvel. And as a matter of fact, at some point, they will be changing up the entire schedule. And right now, it's kind of based on guesswork. So I need your all's help. This is where you all come in on where books might be coming out. So there is no July catalog. And they're going to be changing up the entire schedule and trying to base it on just guesswork of where books might come out. And that is such a difficult position. I can't imagine, like, let's say that everything's back to normal in 2 weeks. Where do we put this book? Because now it's come to the point where I've said this for 3 weeks, but now it's like some books are going to get canceled. I don't want to think like that. Right now, I think 3 weeks out, I think the domino effect is going to start. It's going to start hitting some of the things that I want to see. And we're going to be lucky if those books are just pushed back. And I think right now that's what they're thinking. But if this lasts another couple months, I think we're going to look into they're going to look into cancellations, both Marvel and DC. I mean, right now, I know everybody got an email if you've pre-ordered from Amazon to that some of the books you've pre-ordered will not be out until later. And then some books, if you look ahead, have no dates anymore. And that's from DC, not Marvel, but DC books, books that were coming out later on this year in September. They no longer have a date. So
is that just like from a we're only going to put out so many books per year, and we've just missed 3 months of time to put books out, so some things are going to get lost in the shuffle, as opposed to why don't we just push everything back by 3 months? I mean, and obviously, I'm just asking your guess.
Okay, so my guess is I'm thinking everything's going to get pushed back. But then what happens, right? Because a lot of these things rely on tie-ins to movies. You don't know when Black Widow's coming out. And if you had a Black Widow was supposed to drop in May, right? We had an omnibus to coincide with that. And now that omnibus has to be pushed back. But when do you release it? Do you release it when the movie comes out? It's like all these questions like that. Not that somebody new watching the movie is going to go out and buy $100 book, but it's more for people that take an interest that are already in the hobby. Oh, I've always wanted to check out.
So it's basically external dependencies that are just causing questions with specific things, not, or more so than just general, like, we only have the capacity to handle so much at a given time.
I think it's a mixture of both, right? And no more. I love your name, by the way. How hard is it to shift everything 1 or 2 months? It's not until you have to plan. You got to think like these are books that are going into catalogs, right? They have to guess already. Oh, that 4-issue miniseries of Fantastic Four X-Men, that's going to be finished by this point. We'll release the collection of that this point. But now we're at that point where they're pencils down. And how long does that last? So not only do they have to think, oh, we have to wait for that miniseries to wrap up before we can even announce or put it in the catalog, the collection, but when is that miniseries going to wrap up? So that's a big headache right there because we don't know. Everything is so unsure. So yeah, it's easy to shift everything 3 months, right? Because we see them as books. But a lot of these projects aren't even finished or not even started yet. So the Black Widow movie is currently slated to come out in November. That is true. I hope.
Hey, Maddie.
One of our favorite co-hosts joining us. What's up, Maddie? You can come in here. Come on, girl. You know people love asking you questions. You know you're always invited. Dan is really good at helping me out, though.
I try. Though again, it's kind of like I bet this is something you talked about a billion times, but I want to know personally.
You don't watch every one of my damn shows, Dan. What the?
I don't watch every single one of the shows, Omar. I'm sorry. You get to a level of detail that is commendable and is so far beyond my interest.
I don't know if I'll take that as a compliment or what.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome. I mean, and for our viewers, a peek behind the scenes here, and we've gone into this a couple of times, but Omar and I have been doing stuff like this for. When did we start About Heroes? Like 06?
05.
Yeah.
We had a podcast in 05.
Yeah, we did a podcast for years and years that I stopped when I went to law school in 11. And then we started doing this in 14, 15. And each time seeing the kind of growth, especially with the getting in with the companies and getting them to take you seriously, and then seeing how Omar's really done that this go round with Marvel and DC and all those folks has been just amazing. So kudos to you, Omar.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know where you were going with that. I thought you were going to go the other way. I can't believe anybody takes you seriously.
No, I think it's awesome to see every time, and it's strictly because of how much you care about this stuff and how in detail you get. So good on you.
I think.
All right, now that the self-flagellation.
No, Maddie, do you have anything to add to that?
Show is over.
I didn't catch any of it.
You could
to how good Omar is.
Yeah, please tell me more about myself. I don't hear it enough.
Oh, nah.
So now that Maddie's here,
I love you.
More coffee, so I'll be right back.
Okay.
I just finished yoga with Amanda over Discord.
Oh, nice. I am messing with Maddie. All the women on my show have been threatening to beat me up. Why is that? It's because I'm so darn lovable. Dan, are you secretly admitting you are David Gabriel? No, Dan is also not David Gabriel, guys.
No. Peter Gabriel, maybe.
So, Maddie, one of the things that I mentioned earlier, and for anybody that's joining us, is if you know a local comic book store, or if you yourself own a local comic book store or are an online retailer, and if you're having to sign up for federal assistance, please email us with your comic book store information and things like that at our email, nearmancolin@gmail.com, because Marvel is willing to help out. So you all let me know, and I will make sure to pass that on to David, and he will pass it on to the appropriate folks over there. So please, because it's really a big deal. Yep.
On that note, because I don't want us to seem like we're over promising anything, did he give you any idea of what help out means?
No.
I suspect it's okay.
I mean,
because let's be clear. I don't think that means they are like looking to hand out money. I think that's probably more like they're looking to provide some guidance and things like that. That'd be my guess.
Whatever it is, it's at least something, right? Because right now people need hope. So, Maddie, are you Peter? Are you David Gabriel?
No,
she is not.
I'm not Peter Gabriel either.
David Gabriel is love. David Gabriel is life. I love this. I need to make that into a t-shirt. He would love this. Oh, I need to copy that and make that into a t-shirt.
Oh man, are any of you at home playing Final Fantasy VII yet?
My wife is playing it as you speak.
Yes, I'm so glad she is. I think I remember telling her to play the download. I played for 12 hours straight yesterday. And I could have played for longer, but I guess I'm not used to like staring at the screen for that long playing stuff lately. So I'm like, oh
12
god.
hours.
Yeah.
I wish I was in my 20s again. Omar, when all this
This is my only
craziness
break.
Omar, when all this craziness is over, we need David on the show. No buts. I think he's we'll get him on here, man, for sure. David Gabriel isn't a person. It's a philosophy. Wow. Look at all this. So that's the big announcement, and then the no July solicitations. Now, another big question is, when I talked about maybe cancellations, what comic books from Marvel, again, are must-haves for you when they come back? Not issues, but characters, title, events, things like that. What are more important to you all? What comic books? To me, I already know we have to have the Dawn of X titles back. I don't care how long, I have to wait till the next issue of X-Men or New Mutants or X-Force, but those are important to me. But
that's where my stuff's or focus has been in the last couple of months. I don't know, that and Daredevil, but
Zdarsky, man, he's good.
But I'm a sucker for Daredevil anyway. So, and
Dan, you should cosplay Daredevil.
You're a lawyer.
Yes,
you already have
You're right. I should cosplay Daredevil. I just have to spend 3 years getting in shape.
No, dude. No. Do the yoga thing with Maddie, and then after you get out of this quarantine, you're gonna rip, dude.
Yeah, I'm basically working on my post time skip body right now. So like, I've gone away, and then when the time skip is over and quarantine is over, I'm like, damn, Maddie, that's my goal.
Omar texts David to get him to join the show now.
You can also cosplay the Daredevil, where it's like him with like the sweater that says "I am not Daredevil."
Right.
I like that one.
Just red glasses and that.
And if you need anybody to throw some acid in your eyes, I got you, dude.
All right.
To make it a little more believable, that is.
Authenticity.
So people are saying Thor by Donny Cates. It's very important for them. Yeah, I think that title will come back regardless. Immortal Hulk. Ben S is saying definitely all the X-Men stuff, Daredevil and Immortal Hulk. The X titles, Spider-Man, Guardians, or some cosmic ongoing in Thor. It's been great so far. A lot of love for Thor. Amazing Spider-Man. I think staple titles like Amazing Spider-Man will be safe, right? I think that's good. Hawkman by Robert Venditti. Venom by Donny Cates and Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky. I don't know if Marvel's going to buy Hawkman, though. So let's just play it safe and say Venom and Daredevil. Unless you know something I don't know. I don't think times are that hard at DC yet.
Question for you, Omar. Are we getting close to the end of Zdarsky's, I probably said that wrong, run on Daredevil?
There were no statements.
That you're aware?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
So, it's a damn good book, though. Did you like Charles Soule's run?
I did, but it didn't grab me quite as much.
Omar only cares about Marvel. No. It's just that Marvel asked. Now, if DC had also asked, then I would be asking the same question. Absolutely. Come on now. I don't discriminate, but I lean a little more towards Marvel just because it's X-Men. I don't think I can hide that fact. Then Taylor, the new Warriors, and I'm being serious. We couldn't go on through one stream without somebody mentioning the new Warriors.
I know, everyone.
Every one of you guys. Like, the fact that I'm going to try to push the classic New Warriors omnibus is going to be tough. Fine, I'd rather Marvel buy Hawk Woman anyway. Think Chip. Oh, so here's your answer, Dan. I think Chip said he had 30 issues of Daredevil planned, but he is open to do more after. Hey, that's what's up.
We're a little bit more than halfway through that, I guess. But
It's not discriminating, indeed. Man, woman, you're getting beat up. No. I just defend myself is what I said when they were coming up on me. And one of them is my wife, who is a 5th degree master black belt. She could totally kick my ass.
I like how
Power.
you have to give her credentials before you say that instead of just acknowledging that regardless of that, she could just kick your ass.
Yeah.
Just in case anybody's joining the chat right now and didn't know that about my wife. But yes. Otherwise, no, I can take her.
I'm gonna tell Melanie.
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna tell her.
Mm-mm. She's playing Final Fantasy VII right now. She's fine.
She's gonna take that Buster Sword and whoop your ass. Oh man, I have a Buster Sword. You guys want to see?
Nerd. Show me that Buster Sword.
Let me get it. Also, having a wireless headset is dope.
You just had to get loud, didn't you, Maddie? She heard that. She's gonna be in her pajamas all day playing
Look
that
at
game.
this.
Wait, hold on. Let me highlight you, Maddie.
That's a whole ass Buster Sword. Melanie, look.
Wow.
Very nice.
Did you make it?
No, a friend did.
That's awesome.
How much
Yeah.
of the game have you played?
I'm at Walmart right now.
You're what?
At Walmart.
She's at Walmart.
Walmart. I'm
I
Walmart.
was say, it's amazing that they let you
okay,
just
went
set
for-
up the
I just started
broadcast
this
in the
morning.
middle of a Walmart.
Oh.
I was like, you're
Yeah.
at Walmart.
No, I started yesterday morning, so I'm about like
Oh, okay.
16 hours in.
Hey, guys, this is Near Mint Condition live stream. Can we talk like about Final Fantasy VII later?
No.
Yeah. It's a lot
I
of
mean, yeah.
fun.
People got questions. Okay.
Okay, come here, baby.
I love you. Go upstairs with mommy. Go watch her play.
This is a big deal. We never thought we'd get this. And here it is. In my house.
Just bought a first printing of the new X-Men by Grant Morrison on me. Turns out the diamond of the spine is off center. Any way to fix that? You're talking about the eye of that spine? Because I don't think there's even the ruler trick where you stick or you don't have to be a ruler. I don't think that could fix that. No. I noticed that Omar and Maddie both have their comics in a dedicated room. I'm used to people having their books in their living room on display. And what would it take for comics displayed in your living?
Omar used to.
I did. I had my Peanuts collection's still up there. My Far Side stuff, that's still up there. I don't mind normies or muggles coming up and looking at that stuff.
I like the rest of my house, because I basically my comic book and now my craft room too have like my nerdy stuff in it, but the rest of the house doesn't really have that, and that's kind of on purpose for me. I like to have that.
We had that for a while, but when the kids took over the loft, this stuff had to go somewhere. So this is just my den.
You picking up the Blade of the Immortal hardcovers. You were that is top 5 favorite manga of all time. I hope they release it in original left to right format. I'm sorry, right to left. But I'm thinking because it's just easier to reprint those books, it's going to be left to right, American style. This is a Near Mint live. It's still missing 10 more off-topic side conversations.
Freddie knows what's up.
Yeah, Freddie's always here.
That's the thing about Saturdays too, because there's there's a focus, but at the same time, there's not. It's kind of like a check-in. Like, hey, what's up?
We are here to band together to forget all of life's troubles. That's what we're doing. Because there's enough bad news coming out of all the other places. So.
Which is why we focused on that bad news for the first half of the show.
Hey, not bad news. Okay. So Uncanny Durley and a lot of other people are asking, please don't cancel reprints. Please don't. So I'm just going to say right now, there is no word of cancellation. There's nothing. Like, I'm just thinking that they're going to, even David said in his email, we're changing up our entire schedule and basing it on guesswork where books might come out. So there's no mention of cancellation. It's just Omar speculating 3 months from now, if this is still going on, we might see something canceled. And I'm not talking about like the big books. Maybe, I don't know, probably the new Cloak and Dagger series or something. I don't know. Maybe books that haven't even gone into print yet. I'm not hating. I love Cloak and Dagger. You know that. Can't do a live stream without Andrew mentioning Nascenti's. Did you like Nascenti's Daredevil, right? And Nascenti's, Dan? She did the run with John Romita Jr.
Oh, yeah. Of course. There's very little Daredevil that I don't like. I mean...
How'd you feel about Fall from Grace? People really hate that story, but I don't really mind it. I thought it was all right.
It was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Daredevil, along with obviously so many characters, but frankly, most Marvel characters I don't follow that closely these days. But like seeing the effort that they go to with Daredevil to just like wrap up. No, this thing that happened that's okay. It's okay. That still happened. We're good. As opposed to like the Hickman X-Men, where it's like, you know what? We're just gonna hand wave most of what's happened in the last 30 years. So
Yeah.
I'm entertained by it, but as with most things, I do kind of wish that, and this is getting far afield, obviously, but I do kind of wish that we could treat these books a little more, or these evergreen properties a little more fast and loose with past continuity, kind of like Hickman's doing with the X-Men. I'm just kind of like,
or kind of like when you
what's
pick
happened to these folks in the past, but you know what? We're not going to worry too much about it. We're telling me stories.
Isn't that
now.
what some writers that I have issues with do? I'm not going to say any of the
Okay.
writers' names, but it's like, oh, I kind of understand what the X-Men are like, or Daredevil. Yeah, I'll write a comic book. But
Okay,
honestly,
yeah, no, that's
sometimes it
completely
works
different,
though. And this is a big pat on the back, and I don't think he deserves it, but rightly so. But for example, Paul Jenkins had no idea anything about the Inhumans, but he wrote like the best Inhumans comic book.
Yeah.
Paul Jenkins had no. Remember, we interviewed him, and he was like, "I didn't know anything about the Inhumans," and then turned out one of the best runs in Inhumans ever. And I don't even know if anything has topped it. The run with Jay Lee. So sometimes it works in the favor of the creators.
Is it true that Matt Murdock and Scott Summers are the same character with different powers? I mean,
really funny.
To the point where your primary superpower is guilt, then maybe so.
Ooh.
It's the Catholic in them.
Yeah.
Is Cyclops Catholic? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Andrew
Probably.
is asking me, is there a chance that Daredevil by Nocenti and Spectacular Spider-Man by J.M. DeMatteis gets an omnibus? And I'm going to say, yeah, absolutely. If you were to ask me if Man of Steel is going to get an omnibus, I would probably say not in the near future. But at least, I think there's always a chance. Wolverine Volume 1 versus Wolverine Adamantium Collection. I would say get that Wolverine Omnibus Volume 1, because I don't think they're going to do a Volume 2 of the Adamantium Collection. And you want that Volume 1 and 2 of Wolverine Omnibus, otherwise,
it's
your
all
friends,
about what it looks like on the shelf, friend.
Or your friends are going to make fun of you.
Hey guys, I'm gonna head out. I love you both. Enjoy the rest
Good
of your
to see
show.
you, Maddie.
Bye, Maddie.
I'm gonna go play.
Enjoy your Final Fantasy VII. Don't even lie like you got to go do business.
Well, and I'm hungry. Bye. Bye, guys.
Thanks for joining us for a little bit. Any chance of a superior Spider-Man omnibus? I think what they'll do, because now we've collected JMS, and you will get your books, just no matter what, they're coming. I think once they get through the JMS years, they might start focusing on the post One More Day stuff. So we're talking Brand New Day, which was the big brain trust of writers, including Bob Gale, Mark Waid, that wrote Spider-Man for about a year and a half, almost 2 years. And somebody please correct me in the chat if I'm wrong about that. I'm thinking it was 2 years. And then Big Time, right, where Dan Slott came and took over the book. And all that leads into Superior. So absolutely, I think that's where they're going to shift the focus to. So Freddie also adds, plus the Adamantium's collection is so expensive, it don't have much to match in that size. So, nah. That's why I suggested it. Patricia is catching up. She just said, wow, Cloud Sword, where's Maddie? Oh, she went to play it again. Marvel better just skip all that dance. You're not a fan of Dan Slott, huh? I was a big fan of his run leading up to Superior. After Superior, I think it kind of went down a little bit with, what was it, Worldwide. But I really enjoyed Superior Spider-Man.
Hey Omar, there's a question from NMan40 there that I'm curious.
This one here?
Thank you. Yeah.
Micronauts. Wrong. Not gonna see them, guys. Certain characters like Fu Manchu, I don't think Marvel owns the rights to reprint them again because they weren't collected in the What If comic collection. Red Sonja. Transformers. I don't know. Maybe after all this is done, maybe I don't know.
Is there anything other than licensed properties like that though?
I think all of it has to do with license. Yeah, I think like licensing is a big issue.
Yeah.
So I don't know how a small company like Dark Horse does things like that though. When Dark Horse reprints, like they just did the Black Hammer Justice League Deluxe Edition. I don't know.
Well, I mean, frankly, it's all about how good your contract is up front, right? I mean, did you
Oh,
think about
you would
that?
know
It's
about
the
that.
same. Well, it's the same reason that there's so many shows that can't get put out because they didn't secure the music rights for later syndication. It's that same kind of issue. It's somebody didn't think about this up front. Best way to collect the classic Transformers comics.
There you go, Dan.
US IDW did a couple of reprinted editions, and Omar, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they finished the black cover versions.
They did.
But if you don't, they did.
There's 7 of them. They did. They're all done.
Okay. I just haven't picked those up. But the black cover versions have the Marvel content in them, like Circuit Breaker and whatnot, right?
Yes, they have Spider-Man, they have Circuit Breaker, so pretty much all the characters that were owned by Marvel, because what we were talking about, some kind of rights, I guess. They
have
those
some
characters
coloring issues, and they have some, some other issues. But if you're just looking to read those stories, I think that's the way to go. Do you disagree?
No, that is the way to go. That is the best way. Sadly, a lot of those are out of print, and the UK was never finished. They only did 5 of them. I'm looking at it, and it's so frustrating. And believe me, even IDW is frustrated because the PR guy that's my contact there, we both bonded over that. We were like, I hate the fact that I'm looking at my shelf and I only have, like, we need 3 more and that's it. And then we talked about G.I. Joe, IDW. It just didn't sell that well, so they canceled that line. Damn, I know Dan's answer, but I'm also going to say Transformers.
Yeah.
Dan just needs to turn around and say, need I say more?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Now, one of the questions that I have a lot of you here, this is again from Marvel, and it's who wants Marvel to put out digital content so they have something new to read? Like, if Marvel or DC, so actually, no, this is me, not Marvel. This is something more I'm curious about, since we talked about it earlier, and I wanted to go back to it, is who here would like to see digital content put out for Marvel and DC and IDW so that you all have something new to read every week. And that's either comic books or trades, but weekly comic books that you're used to. Let me know if you're watching this later, and what I'll do is I'll put up a poll, because this is something I think a lot of companies need to know. Like, a lot of the companies need to know: DC, Marvel, IDW. I mean, IDW literally told the team of TMNT and G.I. Joe pencils down. Like, they are not going to do another issue. So I'd love to know so I could share with my contacts, like, hey, people are interested or people are not interested. So let me know either here or in the comments down below if you're interested in digital. If you're not interested, I see a lot of nope. Is that what you see, Dan?
That's what I see too.
I see a lot of no.
And not surprising, kind of,
coming from
folks who are focused on the physical collectibles. I don't know. I mean, I think I'd probably go the other way. But like I said earlier, I'm fortunate enough to have no problem with the idea of, like, if those physical issues get shipped to my local comic shop where I've got a file, I'm still going to go buy them, even if I paid for them in the meantime to do them digitally. So
So I don't want digital. This is a really good point. I don't want digital, but I'm curious what effect waiting would have on the content creator's ability to stay employed. Excellent question.
Right.
That's the big question right now, because the people at IDW, they're not getting paid. And I think it's wonderful. When I said, like, when bad things like this happen and brings out the best of humanity, I mean, look at Jim Lee, look at Rob Liefeld. They are drawing sketches, selling sketches to support comic book stores going through this. I mean, they're auctioning off their sketches, original artwork, and they're not the only ones. Tons of artists are doing this. And I think that's wonderful. But
And
this is the big
industry-wise,
question.
though, I mean, most creators are still independent contractors, right?
For the most part,
that
yeah.
hasn't changed.
Unless they are exclusives. Like, it's when you sign an exclusive deal that you get, the big benefits like health insurance and things like that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they're being paid piecemeal for the most part.
yeah. So you know what? I will start I'll start a poll after this episode is over, just as out of my own curiosity, and maybe I can get this over to the people that make the decisions, like whether or not you all want digital now or whether you're willing to wait for new content, whether it's trade paperbacks or single issues. Because I think the industry as a whole needs to, and I don't represent us, I just know I have contacts that make decisions that probably want to know these things. So I will start a poll. Keep an eye on the YouTube channel. I'll only make it on YouTube. I won't make it on Facebook, so then everybody can vote. I think you can do it on your phone, or you can do it going here through the community.
On Facebook?
I don't know technology, man. I'm a dude that's in my 40s. I'm so old. I don't have nostalgia for Final Fantasy VII, but my wife and Maddie do. Now you put Final Fantasy 3 on there with Locke and Terra, I'll play the shit out of that.
That's right. You get some Alex Kidd.
Alex Kidd. Wow, that's showing our age. When is the Eternals going to be released? That has been pushed back until next year. That was originally supposed to release in November, and I know this because the amazing Amanda and I do shows, so that's why I know this. So that was pushed back, and Black Widow took its place this November. So that's been pushed back, I think, until next March of next year or February. Oh, Christopher saying Eternals is going to be released in February of next year, I think. Nah, my man. I played Final Fantasy VII as a kid. I thought it was boring. I'm not going to hate on it. There it is. I knew there were some more Final Fantasies. I know there were some old folks in the chat. Come on now. Where y'all at? Show that old folk love. Don't take that out of context. Please. How's it going, man? How's everybody doing? I do want to remind everybody right now, because I haven't the entire time, but if you're enjoying this, please don't forget to hit that like button. I don't know why I went like that.
Why are you doing this?
I'm old and my brain is scattered everywhere. I'm reading multiple emails. But please don't forget to hit that like button and hit the notifications button to let you know when our videos are going live, please. And you can find us on Patreon and Redbubble. I'm not signing off yet. I'm just doing the mid show thing. Yeah, more like 2/3 show thing. But it's a cool way to support the channel if you can do so, please. Yep. So Omar, do you not have a current? Oh yeah, man. I've got a Switch. I've got a PS4. Well, mainly my wife has a PS4. And we have an Xbox One that it's like a door stomp right now. I don't play much on it.
I'll take it.
Oh, people love it. I knew you all were going to take that shit out of context. Thank you, Larry. Larry is always here to remind me I'm not even close to old. What's the saying? What's the quote? Old is always 20 years older than me. Isn't that the definition of old? It's always 20 years older than you, no matter what age you are. Think about it like that. Do you guys like binging, or do you prefer to read bits of a particular line at a time? Dan?
That's hard. I'm impatient, so I like to get the books when they come out.
Mm-hmm.
That said, reading an entire story all at once is often a better experience, not always. If just because, it's easy to forget the little details, and especially if you have a book that is really setting things up little by little by little for a big payoff it's easy to forget some of that setup if it was 6 months ago that you read it, and you've read, a bazillion comics in between then. But on the other hand, sometimes, you miss out on the whole cliffhangery elements of things, especially if a book has taught you that cliffhangers matter. So
Yeah,
I think there's, if I had to pick one, I would say I prefer to read them collected, but there's definitely pluses and minuses to both.
Okay. I like binging. That's what I think.
It's not that hard.
What Justice League traits do you recommend? Injustice League, JLA, Tower of Babel, JLA, World War III. The Brett Meltzer run that's getting a deluxe hardcover is really solid. Dan, what about you? What are like some? Do you have a favorite Justice League story?
I really enjoyed those Grant Morrison Justice Leagues
And that's getting an omnibus
runs. Yeah, if I think Justice League, that's what I think about, and I think about little gags like the Flash in the background of a panel just moving stuff around, not actually, it's just him kind of standing there looking at a display case, and the display case just changes from panel to panel to panel with other people doing stuff in the foreground. But that's what sticks out in my head. Though there's a big part of me that loves the weird ass Justice League stuff from the 80s.
The JLI.
When they weren't allowed to use any of the big characters, and it was all like
Booster Gold, Blue Beetle,
and Blue Beetle, and
Oh no, that's like, a wonderful run.
Those stories, I never had enough of them to like really see the through line, and it was always kind of like, I don't understand most of what's going on here, but like I just enjoyed those. They had a fun to them that is different from anything else I could think of.
I'm with you. Thank you for reminding me of that run. That's the Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis run.
Yeah.
And Volume 2 just got solicited a few months ago. Knock on wood. Will not get canceled. Come out. Now I'm going to run through some of these questions. Are those Final Fantasy VI characters back there, Omar? Yes, they are. My wife made those. Let's see. They sell comics with digital codes inside. They should do something like that the opposite. I think that was one of the things that people were thinking they were going to do was sell you the comic book store sell you a digital code that you can cash in a physical copy later. That's what I think DC or Marvel, one of those did. Like it was, but I don't think anything's come of that yet. Do you think Rob has stopped crying yet from opening that FF7 box? Yes, not. I've texted him to check on him, and he's either playing the game or he's still crying over that. This is a great question. Do you prefer absolutes or omnis? For me, I like omnis. Absolutes are beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it has to be something special in order for me to get an absolute. Like right now, I am still like thinking, should I get Preacher Omnibus or should I get Preacher Absolute? Because the story means a lot to me. And usually when something like that happens, I go the absolute way. And I love Steve Dillon, but Steve Dillon's artwork doesn't need to be supersized, to me anyway. I love Steve Dillon's artwork, but it doesn't need to be supersized. Unlike somebody like George Perez, right, who draws like 1,000 characters in one panel, and I'm like, it's nice to have it in an absolute format. Or Jim Lee, just as to appreciate every little single line of sketch that Scott Williams goes over his pencils. That's mainly why I get those. Or if a story means something to me, so omnibus. There was another shoot. Sorry, I'm a little behind here. Thank you for all the answers. Thank you for joining us, man. All of you all. Thank you. We'll get through this crap together. Omar, would you get a FF6 remake collector's edition? Oh God, yes. Yes, I would.
That's like asking if you were thirsty, would you drink some water?
Yeah, that's actually. Yes. Some story. This is a good point. Some stories are
absolutely
better month by month. I thought of House and Powers of X like that.
Yeah.
That story to me read so much better month by month. Now, I got a lot more out of it when it came out in the collected edition.
They were weekly too, right? Or bi-weekly.
But how fun was it to be like, oh my gosh, more? I don't want to spoil it for people that haven't read it. The whole shocking factor of Moira in issue 2, and then by the time you get to issue 5 with the big revelation, oh, it was so
Yeah,
good to be an
absolutely.
X-Men fan again.
There are definitely books that are better read in periodic format, but it helps when they go week to week as opposed to month.
And I apologize, I'm bouncing back and forth here because StreamYard doesn't make it easy to get these questions. But given the risk of publishing high-cost collections, I think the industry should look at a crowdfunding system for guaranteeing demand before publishing. The board game industry does this well, and that's what Dan brought up earlier. Lawyer Dan, everybody.
Well, it's just when I see, and we talked about this on the panel shows, companies like Hasbro doing that for like, is there enough interest to make this gigantic product that Walmart and Target absolutely will never carry?
Yeah, but that's a $500 robot.
Sure, it is, but I mean, the omnibuses are the same thing. You can't walk into Barnes and Noble and get most of those omnibuses off the shelf unless you just happen to run into them.
No,
it's not like
but
you can walk in and see.
No, but you can
you're
order
looking
from
at the
them.
small. Yeah, you can order them, but that's never going to be your walk-in stuff that they just stock. And
I mean, comic
stock.
book stores have them, but we'll go back to that just to catch Matt up or anybody that's joining us a little late. The main things that I announced is that there is no July solicitations from Marvel. So they're just going to reshuffle things around for their schedule. No announcements from Diamond or IST. The last thing I heard about Diamond is they're trying to work out money issues right now, which is an important thing because money issues, you need to pay your employees to get these books out. Just saying. And as far as IST, the last thing I saw was that they are going to hopefully wait out on Diamond, but we don't know when that's going to come. Cheap Graphic Novels, I know, is finding other distribution centers. But as I mentioned before, and I'm sure they did in their big announcement, is that the discounts aren't as big as they used to be. And I am starting a poll after the show's over whether people want to see new stories digitally, whether it's trade paperbacks or single issues, so I can distribute that to the appropriate parties. Oh, what a question we missed. But here we go from my boy, Buggy.
If Transformers wasn't a thing, I'd be more into comics, frankly. As with all of us, you only have so much money to pour into these hobbies, and Transformers is my number one, and comics is my number two. That's pretty much it. But I've always been not more into the toys, but heavily into the toys rather than buying collected editions and things like that. So
yeah, I'll get him there.
Yeah.
But Dan also, I mean, he works his number on me, his little speech. He's like, "Hey, did you know this was out?" And he knows how I am. Anytime he texts me, I'm like, "No." But now that if I have to buy Super Megatron, I got to go and buy Star Convoy, right? It's stupid shit like that. I hate when people text me.
It's like, I didn't text you about Super Megatron so you could make me feel guilty about not buying Star Convoy. Thank you, Omar.
One will not make sense without the other. Now you got to buy both.
Yes, they do. They absolutely do.
If DC doesn't care. There are no words of cancellations. Nothing's been canceled, so we're keeping our hopes up. Leslie Turner, I'm feeling very lucky that I had Uncanny X-Force from Amazon UK last week on the 7th, since I had to pre-order it in place since August 2019. It's been a bit of a wait. I'm glad you got it. Good gosh. And that's why we were talking about this. Not a lot of places offer pre-orders with the exception of Amazon. But even then, Amazon doesn't really, they do their own pre-order. They don't base it on people's numbers. They just pre-order what they're like, okay. They do some algorithm and some computer somewhere decides, let's order this many copies of Uncanny X-Force based on this. There's
no one at Amazon making that decision. There's no person making that decision.
There's not a guy that owns In Stock Trades or Cheap Graphic Novels that's like, geez, how many copies should I get, right? So, let's go back to some of these later questions, bouncing a little bit back and forth. Do you think Marvel will finish putting Ultimate Spider-Man in Ultimate Collection format? They stopped at Volume 7 a couple of years back. Anything is possible since they have brought back like the Man-Thing Complete Collection, not Tomb of Dracula. There was another one that had stopped for a while. Anything is possible. And a lot of people have been asking me about the Omnis, if they were going to do any more of those or reprint the original one. And I think Yeah, I mean, depends on sales, right? Okay, have Lawyer Dan and Transformers Dan ever been? Yes, they both have. Remember, we did an episode with that intro. Omar, how many Omni Boo do you think it will take to collect the entire X Factor run? X Factor,
I
like,
assume you just mean through 71, right?
dude, you dumb bastard, and I know I don't call you that very often, but that's when it gets good. When Peter David takes over the run with issue 70, and then volume 2, that's an easy 4 omnis, even if they add all new X Factor. That's actually that's volume 3, really. Peter David's run, the X Factor Investigations. Volume 1, oh, I'm thinking probably 6 omnis. I don't know why. Just basing it on all the way up to issue 149, including all the annuals and tie-ins, even not including things like all of Executioner's Song, but I'm thinking probably 6 volumes. Cheap Graphic Novels posted an update yesterday that the new releases will be for sale this coming week. Do you know if that includes Absolute Day Tripper? If they could get it from Penguin, if they can get it from the Penguin Random House, absolutely, it will include that. Thanks for catching me up. It's what I do. I could just tell you to go back 2 minutes. Look, man, homeschool dad injury number 1. I burned myself in the oven trying to get these damn kids a pizza. And then you know what they had the audacity to say? I'm not hungry anymore. And I made sure I watched them eat that damn pizza because I was like, I burned myself. I was trying to do 2 things at once and realized I can't. Favorite live action Transformers movie? Bumblebee.
Transformers the movie from 1986.
1986 is not live action, Dan.
What? I didn't see that part of the question.
He asked for live
I'm
action.
Answering. No, Bumblebee would be mine too.
Dan, you used to play Magic the Gathering. When did you stop?
I play it with my son. So a friend of mine, Tim, tried to get me into it 20 plus years ago, and I didn't enjoy it. But my son plays it with his friends, and so I picked it up so we could spend some time together, and it's fun. I enjoy it. But so far, he's the only person I've played with.
The best question of today. Omar, if X-Men didn't exist, would you still get up in the morning? Probably not as early. Maybe my wife and kids come and wake me up, reminding me that there's life.
His Wolverine alarm clock wouldn't exist, and so then he wouldn't get up.
Let's go, Bob. Oh, that's an awesome idea. Let's go, Bob. Yeah. We get annoying after the second time.
If you stay in bed longer than 10 minutes, the blades start to come out.
And Dan actually read this before I did, but go ahead, Dan. Has Dan read the new Transformers IDW hardcover, and what does he think of it?
Well, I haven't read the hardcover, but I read the individual issues. And I'm still kind of taking a wait and see approach, but I will say it's not in my top tier books right now. Like I buy week or monthlies for most everything I'm interested in, and I stopped buying that with the idea that I'll just read it and trade because it's not grabbing me. It's a little slow. And I love the idea of let's see what things were like before the war, and we've talked about this a little bit in panels too, but I think that is a lot better told in flashbacks than in like, here's the slow ramp up, because, nobody cares about the stuff before, Marius and Sulla and Caesar, but once it gets into all that, it's exciting, and that's where they're going now. So I'm looking forward to what's going to come out in the next year or so. I think the story will pick up and it'll be a little bit more gripping.
All right, great question. And out of curiosity, is anyone here having trouble finding an online retailer, whatever country, wherever continent you're on, that has just flat out said we are not going to carry new books, whether it's new comic books, single issues, or whether it's trade paperbacks, graphic novels, or collected editions? Yeah, let me know in these comments if you're not watching live or in the live chat, please, if you're having trouble finding an online retailer and where you're from. What are you guys reading right now? Excellent question. Dan, what are you reading right now?
X-Men. Primarily Daredevil.
My man.
Those new Transformers books, but like I said, I'm putting those off a little bit. That's about it off the top of my head. Doing, just don't have a huge amount of time these days.
Dan, you're at home, quarantined. I don't know if anyone's told you.
Yeah, it turns out that all of that extra time I got back from my commute, I just sleep more. So it's been kind of glorious.
Put your headphones on. Have someone read you the comic books. For me, I'm reading the Jason Aaron Thor run, the Jane Foster stuff, because we do an old reader, new reader on the channel. The whole reason I made that was so I could have an excuse to read my collected editions. And then I'm reading the Dreadstar by Jim Starlin. Started reading that a couple of days ago. I'm reading Leviathan, the crossover event from DC. That's okay so far.
That's an endorsement.
And Thorgal, which is brought over to America by Cinebooks, and it's freaking awesome. Omar, is there going to be some advanced look videos for more Omnis? If so, can you tell us what? Yeah, I'm doing a Cloak and Dagger advanced look, and I'm doing a Silver Surfer reprint advanced look. And Silver Surfer will probably be this Monday. I'm doing retro views as well. I think tomorrow will be Infinite Crisis. And then, because we're not getting new books, I'm taking a lot of people's suggestions and doing like top 10 lists or my favorite X-Men covers and things like that, whatever. But I will make sure we get a video out. Don't worry about that. Do you think Marvel will reprint the Captain America? You bet they will. Absolutely. They know that it's out of print. It's just a matter of when do you reprint it. Do you think most of the stuff from House of X and Powers of X and Dawn of X will get retcon or forgotten and change when a new creative team? That's always hard to tell. It's always hard to tell. And it was all a dream.
But again, that almost, it would almost require that same kind of like fast and loose continuity of this stuff happened to the X-Men sometime vaguely in their past, but we're just gonna ignore it. But it's changed the status quo so much. I don't know how you do that.
Omar, your favorite European comics writer like Alan Moore and Garth Ennis or Warren Ellis or Mark Miller? So one of the lists that I'm working on right now that I've been working on for 2 weeks are my top 10 favorite comic book writers. Do you all know how hard it is to put your top 10 comic book writers like on a list? And you think it's easy, right? But then you get to like,
does anyone think that's easy? I don't think it's easy.
Well, I mean, you think it's easy like if you haven't read a lot, right? If you haven't read a lot, then you got it. If you've been reading like comic books for maybe like the last couple of years, you're like, yeah, I got this. Not that big of a deal.
Sure.
But if you've been reading for a long time, then it comes to like Alan Moore versus Grant Morrison. And it becomes like a Street Fighter thing. Like, but Alan Moore did this. But Grant Morrison did this. Oh, which one do I go with? And I guess I could choose both, but then that knocks out poor Jonathan Hickman. And if Jonathan, it's so difficult, man. So I think for me, it's gonna go. I don't know, Morrison. I think. What about you, Dan? You've read all these guys' things: Warren Ellis, Garth Ennis.
I'd probably have to go Alan Moore for consistency of storytelling. Because I love some of Morrison's stuff, but some of his stuff is just not good.
Oh, I agree with that. But I also think of that way of Alan Moore.
Well, see, and part of it too is I've read more of Morrison than I have of Alan Moore, but everything that I've read by Alan Moore has at least been solid. And when I say solid, I mean like, top shelf solid.
Of course.
Garth Ennis, I'm not a huge fan of.
Preacher just holds a special place in my heart.
That's the thing. I loved Preacher when it came out, but I don't think it's aged well. And
really,
yeah. Well, I mean, for a number of reasons, but Garth Ennis and Mark Miller both, for me, they kind of, and this is unfair, I'll be the first to admit, but they kind of personify that violence for violence's sake mentality that kind of was pervasive in the late 90s and early aughts. And so maybe that's what I'm hung up on. But I'd say Alan Moore probably.
Okay, there you have it. and a sneak peek at my brain when it's thinking top 10 favorite writers. Oh God, what do I do? I'm gonna piss someone off. What if Alan Moore's watching this?
Right.
Oh, this is why I hate comics. I don't need to add to that man's fire with my fuel. I say that, but Nancy Collins, the writer of Swamp Thing, commented on my Swamp Thing video. I didn't expect that at all, and I didn't know how to reply. I'm like, "Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button." I was taken back by that. That was really nice. I love when that happens.
If you name characters after me.
Right, I know Jeff Loeb saw my Red Hulk omnibus review, and I'm like, "Oh man, please don't tell me I said anything stupid." And I didn't. I went back and watched it. But it's always, it takes me back when creators see their own work being judged by some jerk on the internet. Like, oh, Binding is so horrible on this. Just makes me hate Jeff Loeb's writing on Hulk even more. But luckily, I don't do that. Oh, this is an excellent question. Omar, what is your favorite Peter David work? I've been dying to know. Man.
That's hard.
Wow, if you had said, okay, no, I got to play it fair, so just one Incredible Hulk. It's incredible. There's no other words. I was going to say Aquaman. I love what he did with Aquaman. He made Aquaman cool, but Hulk, man. Hulk. What about you, Dan? You've read a lot of David's stuff.
I don't know. I'd be hard pressed to. He's touched so much of everything that I'd be hard pressed to pick something. I mean, for all that I joke, I actually really enjoyed his X Factor stuff too. So that's it. That's my whole answer. I'm done.
No, I'm a big X-Men fan, but Wolverine #1 is a lot of double dipping in with Uncanny X-Men. You means Omni? How much double dipping is too much? Wolvie, I'll give you, but not really that much. It just has the mini series and then issues 172, 173. But it does. I mean, Wolvie Omni has the only place that collects, with the exception of the Adamantium collection, the Weapon X issues. Wolverine 1 through 10 of the ongoing series, the Marvel Comics Presents issues, the fight with Hulk, the fight with Punisher. But I see what you're saying. And New Mutants also has issues of Uncanny X-Men, but it's really not that much. I mean, we're not talking like Thanos, what was it, the Infinity Beginnings or Infinity Origin and Guardians of the Galaxy double dipping. Well, literally Thanos, half of the omnibus was double dipping with the Guardians of the Galaxy Classics or Solo, whatever omnibus it was called. It's not that bad. Damn, why did Rodimus Prime turn into futuristic RV?
Why didn't he? Why wouldn't he turn into a futuristic RV? I mean, because they don't have container shipping in the future, obviously. In the far future of 2005.
Will there be a Young Justice by Peter David omnibus? I made my own. So, and even if they do release a legit one, I will be buying it. I love that run. Any chance of getting a Doctor Strange? Sorry about that. Sorcerer Supreme Volume 3 around this time the new movie comes out? I think so. Even though you say it right here, even though the first two didn't sell that well, but for completion's sake, I think they'll release it. I enjoyed Ennis when I was younger, not so much anymore. Upon rereads, he comes across rather preachy. See what he did there. I don't know. I reread Preacher a couple of years ago, and I think it still stands. Other than the 90s, it feels very 90s. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's not that it's not a good story. It's just, when I reread it a couple of years ago, I can see why 20-year-old Dan loved this. I don't love it as much.
It was edgier, Dan.
Yeah, well.
Looking to get into X-Men. What's a good starting point? Love the vids, guys. Thank you. Much love back to you, man. Dan, I answered this question with one graphic novel. Why don't you answer since?
I would just say, start with the current stuff.
Okay.
And start with House of X, and Powers of 10. I hate that. Is Dawn of X how all that's referred to now?
No, Dawn of X is his own thing. That's the post House and Powers.
But I would say start there. That's the most accessible stuff right now. And but if I had to go, if I were looking at back issues, I would personally start around Mutant Massacre time.
And my go-to answer is always God Loves Man Kills. Shows you the epitome of what an X-Men story can be. Seriously. If you read that and you're like, I don't know about this, X-Men may not be for you. And it's a strong statement to make, but I mean it. The most important question we've gotten so far from Tasty Melon in Groon 23, page 7, panel number 3. Why did Gru kill the man with the red shirt? Because Sergio Aragones was not a fan, or was a fan of Star Trek? Maybe? I like a Gru omnibus. Omar, would you rather reread Identity Crisis or rewatch Unbreakable? Are you the devil? Would you rather go out to brunch with your ex-wife or read it? Oh, man. Jesus. Well, I'm going to say reread Identity Crisis because I know we're going to have to on Old Reader, New Reader. So there you go. Ooh. Yeah, rough one. Congrats for the shows, guys. Long-time lurker, first-time caller here. What's up, mi hermano Benjamin Piñeros? Question to Omar. Is it true that you cry after sex? Why did I pick this question? The rumors are pretty solid. Damn it, because I saw his name. You bastard. I'm banning you. Omar, what got you into X-Men? What do you do to stop reading? And what got you to stop reading X-Men? For me, I don't remember since it's been a long time, but got me to stop was Grant Morrison. I was burnt out by that point. That's ironic. What got me to
Grant
start
Morrison
reading?
Got me back into X-Men.
Same here. What got me to read was I was a kid in Peru. I'm originally from Peru, and I had an appendicitis. I had to cut out my appendix. Free children's clinic, so I was boarded up for like 2 or 3 days back then in the 80s. Like I have a huge scar around my stomach from it. Not like these little 3 dots I think they give people nowadays. But my uncle from America sent me a box of comics, and one of them was Uncanny X-Men 168, and that's the one that I couldn't even read the language. I was 7 years old, or 6 going on 7, and I was just taken back by the pictures and the powers, and I don't know. I still have the issue though. That's my very first comic. What got me to stop reading was Onslaught. I think I just had enough. I needed a break from comics. Yeah, it was just. It's the issue with Professor X rolling away in his wheelchair, and I was like, I think that's a good point for me to roll out to Professor X. And I came back when my friend Dennis was like, "Hey man, you need to read comics again." I'm like, "Nah, dude, I'm done." And he gave me the first like 6 issues, so E for Extinction, of Grant Morrison's run, and I've been back ever since. See, that's why Grant Morrison needs a place in my list. X-Men is X of Swords or Cross of Swords? Is it 10 of Swords? Is it 10 of Swords? That's the real question, because there's 10 people on the cover of that hardcover when it comes out. Bridger Steel stands for Shares. Feels like an age like Quentin Tarantino movie. Love Steve Dillon's art when it's not. I agree with that.
I love the art.
Andrew, I love your comment, but I can't highlight it. Okay, this is a serious question. You better be serious, man. You need to redeem yourself. Who published Marvel stuff in Peru back then? Oh my gosh, man. It was the same people that did Condorito. I don't know if you remember that. No, it wasn't Panini. It was somebody else, and I cannot remember because I don't have any of those issues anymore. Funny enough, my daughter and I just watched Rambo Last Blood yesterday. We stayed up. Lydia, she's 10 years old. She's my movie watching buddy. She loves comic books. And I make her watch these crappy movies. I was like, I always look up online to make sure there's nothing too bad for a 10-year-old to watch, other than, him ripping people's hearts out. And like, she's okay with that. She's watched Face Off. She knows what makes these things. Yes, sir. Only 3 little scars. So you see, I'm so jealous of people like that. I literally look like I was gutted. Like somebody took a knife and went. So that's what I tell people. Can't say I ever got into X-Men. Andrew, you and I need to have a long talk. And now look at me. Don't want to die without having any scars. What an awesome line. I love that. And I love the fact that you have guts on your picture too. Badass. Was Onslaught after Executioner Song? It was. Yep.
Yes.
So he left after Executioner Song. When did you, Dan? Was it Executioner Song? Was that around the time you left reading?
It was shortly after that, and then I picked up again in the late '90s, early aughts, just like like a rock skipping across the water. I would pick stuff up here and there. I remember it was about when they were doing the whole Cyclops Emma Frost thing. And then I picked up New X-Men, and I picked up the Joss Whedon stuff, and then really, I mean, that's the last time I've read a lot of X-Men, except on like Marvel Unlimited, just kind of going back and looking at stuff until the current stuff.
So Eclipse, thank you for this answer. It is 10 of Swords. Unironically, it's referring to the tarot card of the same name. Learning, thank you, Ben. Ben S. Love from Indonesia. Thank you, Christopher. Much love back to you, man. From all the way from Kentucky. Do current X-Men come off like villains or justified supervillainists? Man, Dan, this is an excellent question. I'd love to take your take on it. Like, how do you feel about Cyclops now?
Okay, so again, if you just read the now stuff and you ignore what they did with him over the past 3 or 4 years of the whole turning him into effectively a supervillain, I think they come off, or at least I think they're being depicted as a third category, and justified survivalists might be a good way to describe it, but of just,
I like that.
They're not superheroes. They're not going around just fighting bad guys for the sake of fighting bad guys. It's going around protecting mutants for the sake of protecting mutants, which is a different MO. And to the extent they are, I mean, if we're applying real world labels to them, they have both like militias that are going into other sovereign nations and fighting against those governments. I mean, that's if there's somebody in the real world acting like that, you call them belligerents and terrorists.
Not if they had a big
right?
X on their chest.
No, I'm just saying. I state-sponsored terrorists is a good description of the day-to-day of what they're doing in a lot of ways. So I think it's very much a in the eye of the beholder kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay, good answer.
I think at
heart, I think they're still heroes. And
oh yeah, absolutely.
Like I don't think
absolutely.
even it's weird to think about that. Like I think there's always some underlying things when Apocalypse gets involved, and you're like, okay, what's the the ace up his sleeve he's gonna pull out here? Is he gonna turn everybody into death when this is all over? What's happening? Will we ever get an Ultimate X-Men omnibus? I think there's a big chance of that. When things get back to normal, I think there's a big chance of a lot of things happening. I think Marvel was probably waiting on to see what the results or the final sales were for the Ultimates reprint. So anything is possible. How uncanny are you, Omar? Very strange and unusual. 6. What? 6 out of 8? Pass on Hellraiser. You mean Hellblazer? The omnibus that just came out? The Garth Ennis one? Because I'm all about that. I bet I have more scars than you, Omar. I will take your word for that, sir. No pictures needed. I believe you. The new X-Men crossover with swords. Why does X-Men need a sword? This is a Dungeons and Dragons. Because Magic has a sword, and so did Psylocke.
Swords are cool. Yeah, obviously.
Even Wolverine has. What was it? Was it the Massimune that he had? Oh man, I can't remember. Sorry. Do you read manga? I sure do, and I think Dan has as well. And I have a whole. I've done a manga tour of my room. My wife and I helped me with that. I left in Clone Saga. IDW Transformers brought me back. Now that's awesome.
Yeah.
So Andrew has read Static's new X-Men, Wolverine, OHC, Miller Wolverine. I don't understand why they're feared. because their powers are unexplained, and we need someone like that in the comic books realm. By the way, shout out to Andrew. He has this Facebook group called the Stray Toasters Project, where he gets different artists to draw a toaster for him. So it all came from the idea of Bill Sienkiewicz that says that you take any common thing like a toaster, and that's how, and you put a spin on it. So check out his page, Facebook group. Another serious question: what is the title or creator that you two guys have totally opposite opinions? A lot, probably a lot.
Yeah, but it's hard to. Well,
Dan, okay, I got one, and it's an unpopular opinion. But Dan loves Matt Fraction's Hawkeye. He thinks it's a masterpiece, and I think it's okay. So there's one.
I
think it's okay,
which is what I think best. Is the majority of comics. They're okay. Yes, I do really enjoy Matt Fraction Hawkeye. Yeah,
that one gets so much praise by everybody, and every time I reread it, I'm like, I don't get it. I love the artwork, which probably has a lot to do with that, but just
part of that for me though is I wonder how much of that is because you are reading so much more than I am, and maybe it's a case of some of the things in that book that seem really novel and creative to me. You're like, yeah, I've seen that before. So, I bet that's part of it.
Yeah, and it's okay to have a difference of opinion. Like just because he likes something.
Obviously not. I mean, you're okay to be wrong.
I knew you were gonna throw that at me. The hell. All right, now Rick is about to get banned. I think Bruce Clermont's overrated. How's that for opposite?
Ouch.
I can understand why. I think, and that's okay. I can understand why a lot of people go into these, like, especially, and not Rick, because I know he's been reading a while, but like, there's a lot of new readers that go into these books for the first time, and they're like, "Oh man, I've heard so much praise about this book," and then when you read it, you're like, "I don't get it. What the hell?"
I will say, like, I think there is definitely some huge variation in Claremont X-Men. Like the 100s, I'm all about. The later stuff, the late 80s, early 90s stuff, that's right when I was getting into comics. So like, like I think my first issue of Uncanny was the introduction was the first appearance of Gambit. And like he, that was hard to read, and it's confusing, and it's kind of off-putting for new readers. It's like, who are these people? Are they heroes? Are they villains? Is this a book about villains, which would have been novel in the 90s? And it's just it's more dense, almost to a point of a fault, whereas the earlier stuff is like you could kind of pick up any issue, and even if it's mid storyline, it's like, well, these yellow bubbles, they're sure helpful.
It all really depends. Like, some people are still blown away by things like Alan Moore's Swamp Thing and Sandman, but then you meet people that are like, I don't get it. And everybody has their own personal taste. So I always find it that's a difficult question for me to answer on the channel. When people ask me, like, whether it's something like the hardest question for me to answer is, what's a good jumping on point? Because the minute I share someone what my jumping on point would be, and they're like, man, that story was shit, I am never reading Punisher or X, whatever I would hate that, because I enjoy something and I think it's a good, like, oh, this kind of tells you what the story of Punisher or Frank Castle's about. And someone doesn't enjoy it, that takes, like, I'm swearing off Punisher, and Omar is obviously a damn idiot, which a lot of people would agree with. So, okay, let's see, like, for example, I don't like Sandman, but see, I hold Sandman in such a high praises, like one of the best, not comic books, one of the best things I've ever read in my life. Same with the X-Men.
It has ups and downs too. There's some of those stories and arcs that are better than others. And there's some that are harder to read than others. And there's some, and I don't mean like difficult to like read emotionally. I mean, there are some that just don't make a lot of sense until you go through them four or five times, or that require a little too much knowledge of things outside the book to really understand what he's going for. So it's, I mean, in its own way, it's hit and miss, but I agree, it's one of the best comic runs out there.
And this goes back to Dan's point. That is my favorite era of X-Men.
Oh,
Is
I know.
the Outback years. And it's confusing because all these characters have been going through hell since the Mutant Massacre. And to appreciate it, you would have to have read everything, like the introduction of Genosha, the introduction of the Reavers, how the Reavers are tied to Wolverine. Like reading a Claremont X-Men comic, like I find that hard to jump in and go, okay, let me just randomly pick issue 265.
Right.
Or
well, that's part of it too, is that he built, and it's a credit to his world building. But by the time you're coming in there's just too much going on for it to be explained in yellow caption bubbles. You don't understand why these people hate each other so much, or why, or the complexity of the history there. And that's a good thing if you've been reading the whole time. But if you're just trying to get in it, it's like, wow, there's so much going on here that I just don't get.
I love you, Benjamin. I think people are overrated. He's right. X-Men would not have been X-Men if not for Claremont. Absolutely. And I think every writer goes into that with that mentality. They're building on what he's already done. And that's a very weird thing, right? Because when you think of Spider-Man, like you think of Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, what they did with Spider-Man, and every writer since then has been building it. Whereas X-Men is one of the few times in comic book titles that people are building on something that this guy didn't do until like they were already 10 years in, 12 years in. Howard the Duck by Zdarsky, Omni, or We Riot. My man, David. How's it going, buddy? I saw somebody else in the chat. My boy, Thomas Judge. Shout out to him and his channel. Dan definitely looks like an astronaut. He sounds like one, too, because he uses the smart words.
I talk pretty one day.
That's right. The Siege Perilous, man. That was a good time. Here's a question for you,
man. I still don't understand how the Siege Perilous works.
Magic, dude. Roma said, hey, let there be no... the confusing part is the electronics. Nothing electronically can pick you up. Okay, sure. How did X Factor... Never mind. So here's a good question for you. Do you have any favorite comic artist? You, Dan.
So, yeah, I saw that in there. I was thinking about it. And I think I have to go with, like, if I had to pick one over everything, I would go Jim Lee. Hands down.
Great answer.
His art has a style that is that even among all of the people who were similar when he got popular, it is still very unique, but it's not like overly stylized. He does a lot of the lines like a lot of those folks did back then. But it never got like cartoony or ridiculous in the way that some of his contemporaries did.
Right. It's a good way of putting it.
I just appreciate the way that the role that he's played in the industry over the last couple of years. And I met him in person at Toy Fair once, and we had just a chat like while other people were doing stuff, because he was kind of more or less off duty, and it was fun. And he's a nice guy.
He is a super nice dude. I met him at the first Wizard World VIP thing that I went to. And you know me, like whenever I get a press pass, I pretend I'm supposed to be somewhere that I'm not supposed to be. So I'm sitting around with all the creators. And my favorite thing I ever heard, this is before 1602 came out, was when Andy Kubert was trying to tell, Jim Lee was asking Andy Kubert, what's Neil Gaiman's 1602 about? I know you're the artist on it. I know you know. And Andy was like, Jim, I can't tell you that. You know that, man. And he was like, dude, it's me. It's Jim. And it was the best conversation. I was like, they looked at me and I'm like, I'm not going to say anything. Please, by all means, share what it is.
Right.
Omar, slice of life story or superhero comic? Sometimes I need a good slice of life story. So I'm going to go with slice of life, which you can find in superhero comics a lot of the time, depending on the writers. Sorry, the damn chat is all over. Sorry, it's me losing track of where I was with the chat. Speaking of Jim Lee, DC's get DC's version of David Gabriel on the horn and tell him stop canceling Wildstorm collections. I can't even point. Never mind. I'll save that for another live stream. Jim Lee, is there any other reason? That's right. Is there any other reason to own Superman for Tomorrow in absolute format? Absolutely not. Omar, when will it warm up in Vermont? Thank you. Now we're getting to the point where the questions are becoming like this, and I'm going to say sometime this month, I promise you. From what I remember, For Tomorrow is all about the art. It absolutely is. Omar, Dan, what are some of your favorite non-comic novels? Let me translate that for you, Dan. Those are, I think, books without pictures. I think that's what the Muggles call them.
Sure. It's easier to go with authors than novels, but I would say the ones that immediately come to mind: Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson, which is a great VR story. Elantris by Brandon Sanderson, his first book, and still I think one of his best and one of his few standalones. I really like the Dresden Files. I'm rereading those right now by Jim Butcher.
Did you like
fun?
The Wheel of Time?
Oh yeah. Well, okay. I love the story, the overall story of The Wheel of Time, but every single one of those books is a slog.
Till he gets to the Brandon Sanderson years.
Yeah, basically. Name of the Wind, Pat Rothfuss, obviously. There's so many. And even so, to this day, Ender's Game still holds a very strong place in my heart.
Yeah, I know how you feel about that book, and I know how much it crushed your heart that he wrote. Was it Iron Man? Ultimate Iron Man, right?
Yeah.
So it was like your favorite. It was like your favorite writer and your favorite character, and it was not that good.
And when they came together, it was too much of a good thing, and it just it rounded the curve.
For me, I'm gonna go old school. I love Tolkien's Lord of the Rings and Hobbit. I'm a big fan of the Prydain Chronicles, the ones written by Lloyd Alexander. This is stuff from my youth. I was a big fan of Redwall by Brian Jacks, who passed away. And Shel Silverstein. I'm a big fan of his stuff. Like my favorite book of all time is The Giving Tree. So that's how you all that's me. That's what I love though. So and Neil Gaiman writes some damn good novels too. But I also like Stephen King's the Drawing of Three, the Dark Tower saga. I'm a big fan of that stuff. Now I can't reread all his. Are you going to pull out Stephen King? Is that why you're leaving?
No, I just need to let the dogs out.
Oh, I thought you were like, wait, speaking of Stephen King, I've had him in my closet this whole time. Omar, let's see. Oh, thank you guys. Y'all are too kind. Petition DC to get Omar over there. Ooh, them boys need help, man. Omar, can you ask David Gabriel if we'll get a Charles Soule and the Shinty Omniboo for Daredevil, please? You got it, man. I promise I will. But first order of business is let's get these books that are already out on the table out first. So once that all clears and David has a free schedule to talk to me again, we can discuss later things. And thank you, my boy Benjamin. We can all petition to hire DC to hire Omar, make him head of the printed editions department. Y'all are gonna get nothing.
Couldn't talk to you about any other company.
Oh, that's right. They'd have to be like, I love X-Men.
Stop talking to him.
I love X-Men. David would break up with me. He's like, he would text me, consider yourself blocked. What? Who is both of you guys' favorite DC character, and what is your favorite story with that character?
Tim Drake Robin.
Oh, so close, Dan. Dick Grayson, Nightwing. And my favorite story with him is Prodigal. Dan, what about you?
My favorite story with him is I can't remember the name of it, but just his introductory story, the whole concept of
Lonely Place of Dying.
Who figured out who Batman is and like kind of just wormed his way into the Batcave.
Yeah. Lonely Place of Dying. Wonderful. Good choice.
In a lot of ways, Tim Drake is almost too competent to be an interesting character, but when he was first introduced, I loved it, and it hit right at the right time for me.
Omar, you need to read The Rook. Strong X-Men vibes in that book. Have you read that?
Mm-mm.
You had me at strong.
Did you ever read any of Claremont's novels?
First Flight, of course I did.
Yeah.
Like how I answered that quickly. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Omar, how important is Jennifer Grunwald at Marvel? I have seen her name in every book. Is she over David Gabriel? I think she works for David's group. So he is vice president of sales and marketing and digital editions. So pretty much it's not just collected editions. That's a big thing he does, but it's also just comic books as a whole. And she is part of the collected editions department. And yes, so I assume if you ask Jennifer, she is very important. If you ask me, I think she is equally as important as anybody else that puts those books together. Lonely Place of Dying is one of the best Batman stories. Death in the Family is terrible. Death in the Family was a gimmick, though, and it worked on people like me. I paid my 75 cents to get Jason Todd killed.
I remember that came out right before I was into comics, and my cousin had those, and I remember reading it and being like, "Oh, I want to call this number," even though it was a year ago.
Did you still call the 900 number?
No, of course not. It was a 900 number. All us 80s kids know you don't call 900 numbers.
I made the mistake of falling in love with
time that we called a 900 number and got in huge trouble.
So, David, The King Killer got picked up to be an Amazon series, right? Didn't it get picked up to be like an Amazon series or a Hulu series?
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of the. I mean, it has been optioned, but I don't know if there's anything actually in development.
And honestly, going back to novelists, I'm not gonna lie. I watched season 1 of Game of Thrones, and I was like, I need to find out what happens next. Like when it came out, and there was no season 2, like a date for it yet. And I went to, seeked out the novels, and the third one, what was it? The Storm of Swords. I can't remember. Whatever the third one was, one of the best books I ever read. That the one with the red wedding, freaking phenomenal.
On this comment though, yeah, I would. I'm really looking forward to book 3 of King Killer Chronicles when it comes out. But you know what? Even if it never comes out, the first 2 books are so good that even if that story never gets finished, I'm so glad to have those books and even the kind of 2.5 book. I can't remember the name of it. The Silent Things. But even if that story never gets finished, we're better off for having what we have.
I like that answer. Why has DC not solicited Batman by Scott Snyder Volume 2 or Justice League by Jeff Johns yet? We even have a Tinian's Detective Comics Rebirth in omnibus format. I mean, I could make the joke about the dart and the dartboard, but I rest assured that book will come out. We just got Flash solicited, Volume 2 by Jeff Johns, but we don't even have Jeff Johns' Superman solicited at all. So hopefully one day. Do you like that Jason Todd is now the Red Hood? I absolutely love Red Hood, and I love Jason as the Red Hood, so that was good. For non-comics, the Mistborn series is amazing. Got a lot of readers here. Hello and happy Easter.
Yeah, frankly,
thank you so much.
Anything by Brandon Sanderson is amazing. Let's not beat around that bush. He's consistently awesome.
When the next DC collected editions get canceled, bad decision is made. How quickly will everyone turn on Jim Lee?
Jim Lee has so much goodwill built up with me, but then again, I also don't collect those collected editions, so it's easy for me.
If you superhero fans out there want to ease your way into novels, you should try out Wildcard series. It's a project edited by George R.R. Martin. It's fantastic. Look it up, people. My boy Benjamin does love to read. Hold on. I hope Tinian's intern Batman run is extended because his detective was awesome, right? I thought so too. Is there a Batman post-crisis stuff that has not been collected? A lot. The stuff pretty much in between volumes 4 of Cape Crusader and Dark Knight Detective and Nightfall. So there's a lot that still has. I think they're going to need 2 more volumes of each, if I'm not mistaken, just off the top of my head, of the ones that have been solicited. It would be awesome to have those in Omni format. I'm gonna blame Dan Didio no matter what. Poor guy's been out for
That's good
about a month.
policy.
What's your thoughts on the upcoming Ronin comic? I didn't know they were working on a Ronin comic, but they're working together again. That's awesome. I'm a big fan of Eastman. He does the plot for the new Ninja Turtles run, and it is the best incarnation of Ninja Turtles. Dan, you should read those while you're in quarantine. They're excellent.
I should. There are a lot of things that I should catch up on. But
did Omar get the obligatory Uncanny X-Men Volume 5 question yet? Not today, man. Thank you for being the first. So have you read the Witcher Saga? Jacob's mentioning it, and my cousin and my brother love the Witcher Saga, the books.
I started reading, so I watched the Netflix series first, and I enjoyed it from a like this is fun popcorn TV standpoint, and then I picked up the first, like, all the reading, the book that all the reading orders say pick this one up first, that is like the basis for most of the TV series, and I enjoyed it, and I've got the second one and I haven't started it yet. I've been just reading other stuff, but I enjoy it, but it hasn't like got its hooks in me to the point where I have to read all of it right now.
Gotcha. So we are at the 2-hour mark, and I just want to start wrapping things up a little bit here. Not that I've got a lot to do, but I'm sure most of you all have things to do at home. So one thing I will remind everybody, please stay safe out there. So let's just quick little recap of what we talked about today. We know that Cheap Graphic Novels, that's our sponsor. Check them out if you can. And they are managing to get books through other distributors. And I don't know exactly what the price points are going to be. We don't, they're just a sponsor. They don't relay that kind of information with us. But they will be getting stuff from Marvel and DC and Dark Horse and probably some Image stuff. Whatever they can get from different distributors. And I don't know when they'll come in, but they'll be getting it. So if you're waiting on collected editions, that is one way they're going to get it. Any of you that know any retailers, comic book stores that are going to be filing for the federal assistance, let us know. Email us, and that is at let me just hide this real quick. That's our email address right there, yearmancon@gmail.com, and we will let Marvel know as they are wanting to help. I don't know in what way, but we will make sure that we'll get that information over to them. There are no July solicits for Marvel, and they are finding out ways to try to reschedule things. So
I'm laughing at Tim's comment because I have some painting that I need to do that I'm putting off by doing this.
So you got honey-do list that you need to do? So we can keep going.
No, it's more just Dan during the week thinks this need to get done, and weekend Dan thinks during the week Dan's an ass.
We will be doing this every week, maybe past the point of where I'll continue doing this every Saturday, because this has been a lot of fun. A lot of you all interact with us. As soon as I hear back, like as far as like statements made from Marvel and DC, like real statements, I will let you all know. I'll do a video. Big shout out to my buddy who has a channel, Week in Geekdom. Go check him out. That is Geo from A Week in Geekdom, 3-hour live. This is our longest live stream, I think, 2 hours. People get tired of my voice. I lost my voice last week.
I was just sitting here thinking, I wonder how long we're going to do this today.
I'm surprised you didn't text me, Omar. I have to paint. Please let me go.
Yeah, I really don't particularly want to paint.
Right. Fantastic Q&A once again. I hope you can continue with this in some form after things go back to normal.
We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much. Please don't forget to give it a like and subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. Check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com. We can be found on Patreon and Redbubble, where you can get our logo on stickers. That is on Redbubble, and t-shirts. Let's see. Just everybody, please stay safe and healthy out there. Hit me up. I love replying back to your comments. I'll be doing a retro view of Infinite Crisis Omnibus tomorrow. I'll be doing an overview or an advanced look at the Silver Surfer reprint from Marvel. Those are still coming out with the dates that we were given before. As far as David knows, if there's any changes, I will let you all know. Will there be a House of M? I love questions that are coming in at the last few minutes. Will there be a House of M? Nothing has been said about House of M yet, but it is one of my most wanted Omnis. Love you, brother. Much love to you, man, and everybody else. 0 dislikes. You must be doing something right. Don't say that now.
Ding, ding, ding.
Damn it. All these notices for dislikes. Thank you, guys. This was a great stream. Thank you. Tom Bombadil.
Appreciate it.
Dude, ain't no bigger hipster than Tom Bombadil with those yellow rain boots. You know you love you some Tom Bombadil. Tom Bombadilio or whatever the hell that song was. Thanks again, Omar. Thank you all to all of our subscribers from overseas. Much love to you all. Australia, Europe, South America. Los hermanos latinos allá abajo. And as far as Omni's not being distributed, again, we don't know the status of that. Right now, the only last thing I heard was that Diamond is having to pay some back bills first. So we will see. And on that note, thank you all for watching. Keep it classy and cool, and please, everybody, stay healthy and safe.
Take care.